For the Trades. I am your host, Christene Marie, and we are talking tonight about how to improve your local search engine ranking for your contractor trades business. And the reason why that this is so important is because being found is really the first and most important thing that any one of us can really invest our time into. And in terms of top of the funnel. So when we're talking about priorities in building businesses, I mentioned yesterday how someone invested $5,000 for a coach when they were a really, really small trades business. And something it's kind of nerve-wracking, because at what point do you need to have a certain amount of money to then be able to get to that next level in terms of, now I'm going to start investing in X, or now I'm going to start investing in Y. And so we have to be really, really clear in terms of what are kind of like the tiers and progressions that we should be making in terms of expenditure as a business. And so there's so many different approaches that we can take in terms of how to allocate funds and budget when we're a certain size. I'm thinking under a million. And then when we get to a million, between a million and 3 million, and then 3 to 10 million, there is this threshold of being under 500,000 where it's actually a lot easier to get net profit because our overhead costs are really, really low. But once we start breaking into the 1 to 2 to 3 million, we actually might be taking less net off the bottom line because we have such a high overhead cost, because we're kind of in that mid-range part of, okay, we're not really there where we're making a ton of profit, but we're also not making less than 500,000. So it's this in between spot for a lot of businesses, especially where it's a physical on boots on the ground business. Between 1 and 3 million, it's really, really hard to recoup a lot in terms of net. And so when we're talking about this local search engine ranking and being able to be found, the reason why that's important is because that means you're being found without having to pay high dollar to be found. When you're found locally and you're found through organic search engines, whether it's a search engine or an answer engine. So now there's this whole new way of searching. So when we're found organically, regardless of how, it is way cheaper because we're not really paying a whole lot of money for that lead. We might need to pay some money in terms of either, return on time invested, or we're going to see return on the actual dollars spent to perform that task that helps us get found organically. But effectively, we're no longer paying, for every single lead that comes in, we're exchanging money for it. Rather, we're taking an investment up front, or maybe a continued investment, again, whether it's time or money, to maintain our website and various other tactics that we'll talk about here in just a few minutes. We're maintaining that in terms of consistency through investment of time or money, to then bring a whole host of leads for a really low cost that is either time or money. And so being found organically, that is one of the best and cheapest ways to grow our business. And it's maybe not like that quick hit, such as if you put in $250, you get a lead out, and then you may be able to close that lead. And it's kind of like playing the lottery. Like, at least there's a lot more reliability when you are putting the money in. You're going to get a lead out, but you don't know the quality of that lead. But when we're investing for organic searches, when we're investing to be found across these search engines or answer engines, and answer engines is very much so what we're hearing like whispers around AI these days, which is ChatGPT, Claude. When we're being found on those places, that's such a good sign. Even our family business, my dad messaged me the other day and was like, somebody found us on ChatGPT. And so it's important for us to really be doing some of the things we'll talk about tonight to be found across different channels, because it's no longer just playing on Google. It's no longer just playing even on, Bing search. But now we have to be thinking of a whole new way of people searching. They're searching by asking questions, and then the engine is providing an answer. And so now we're going to talk about some tactics. But again, the reason why this is so important is because investing in these ways is a much cheaper modality than always having to pay anywhere between $150 to $300 for a lead, depending on what industry you're in. So, if we're smart about it, we'll be able to capitalize on time investment and with a few dollars investment as well. And the time is hopefully ideally scattered between people on the team. So, traditionally, the way people have grown organically their search engines is by way of blogging. And blogging has been a very traditional means that still has a use case, but really, the way that it was found was that we would put certain keywords in the blog page on a website that then Google and other search engines would go and crawl. It's like they had little spiders and they would go and crawl that page, find different keywords that we were talking about, and then it would help the searcher say, oh, this is a good piece of content for you. This is a good website for you. And then they would drive traffic to your website. But with more and more competition coming online and a lot more people putting in basically bids by way of think of a piece of content as a bid to be found. What once was maybe like you're going up against 10 people bidding on a keyword or bidding on a search term organically. Now you've got tons and tons, probably hundreds of people in your area who are bidding on similar keywords. And it's not just, when the internet kind of came out for the first time, it was there was hardly any content. So not only are very few people bidding, but the amount of bids those people are putting out are very small. So I might write if I'm a landscaper, I might write 10, 15 articles over the span of a couple months, maybe even a year, where we're writing one article a month around landscaping and how to care for your property and what kind of soil should be used or fertilizer, etc. Well, there were maybe 5 companies doing that, each one producing maybe 10, 15 articles. Now there's 50 to 100 companies and they're doing mass production, and there's also like backloads. Now we've got years and years and years of bids that have been put out vying for people's search. So now when somebody searches, there's so many options, and that's what leads to the pages and pages of search results, particularly on Google, where you can go hundreds and hundreds of pages back. And there are blog articles that were probably ranked high 10 years ago. And so now we're looking at blogs and it's like, man, what is the purpose and use case for blogs nowadays? And the reason why I say that there's still a purpose for them is because people are still searching using traditional means on Google. But there's a few other things that we can be doing in addition to blog writing. But before we get to those, first, our blogs, we need to be starting to incorporate questions and answers in them. Because the more we're question oriented in our blogs, the more that's going to help us be found over on the answer engines. And there's a website, I'm sure you've heard of it, Reddit, where somebody's asking a question and people are answering. So the more that we're creating that question answer content, and then being intentional to find other places where the same question is being asked, taking our answer and putting it in response, whether it's a LinkedIn group, Facebook group. A lot of times there's neighborhood groups where people are asking, hey, who's the best painter in town? Hey, where did you get your landscaping done? This is a great opportunity to go in and answer those questions and really offer real value. And the way you can offer value, if someone's saying, hey, who's a good house painter, you can say, well, you should be considering how much of this is actually needed to be done by a professional. If you want to save some cost, here's some tips. But hey, if you're looking to hire a team or a company, I would love to talk to you. So you're giving them value. You're helping them kind of think through what is the potential cost. Could they actually do some of this themselves if they're trying to save a little bit? And when is the right time to bring in a professional? Who's the professional that they should bring in? So in the responses that we're giving people, we're actually really, really being a help and being a service, because what these search engines and answer engines are looking for are people who are really going to serve and deliver real value. And trust me, there's enough content out there that they can search well enough and identify, oh, you're just trying to sell. You're just trying to sell. Oh, you're trying to add value. You're really trying to help. I'm actually what they do is they say, I'm going to promote you. I'm going to promote your content. I've even gotten messages from Facebook saying, we're increasing your reach, which means that now they're putting my content in front of more people. They're saying we're doing that because of your original content. So now, not just search engines, but social engines and algorithms are starting to pay attention to, is the content we're producing original? because there's a lot of now AI content. So it's not just that we're competing with the companies that are putting out bids for content and bids for people to click. It's not just the amount of content that's being produced, and it's also not the years and years of content that's already in existence, but now it's, is it original? Is it something that truly is inspired by someone with experience who can speak to a human in a way that a human would also read it? So is it positioned in a way that's authentic and original? Or is it coming from an AI? So those are the kind of four different ways and modalities that we kind of need to consider that we're up against. And so when it comes to blog content, creating content that has the questions and answers approach, taking some of those questions, going and searching where are other people asking these types of questions, and then going and offering what are the answers and maybe even link back to that blog post. And so if you really, this is where it's a matter of time and investment on the return of the time, right? So that's one way in terms of putting, like, actually intentionally blogging. Another way is by taking, if your organization, a lot of people I'm seeing have podcasts these days, and I'm about to get to my very favorite tip in terms of increasing your local ranking. It's a trick with your Google Business Profile. But before we get there, there's a lot of businesses that I'm seeing who are really starting to recognize the value of video content. The video content can easily be turned into a blog post, and it can be optimized with question and answer type of dynamics in them, where instead of just taking a paragraph and like stating it as a fact, you can turn it into a question and then a response. And so if you're creating content, whether it's by a blog, by a podcast, or you're creating video content with your sales team or your marketing team is creating video content, turn that into a blog post. There is no reason why one piece of video content cannot turn into a blog post, social media posts, little clips and reels. There's so many ways to talk about the process of alchemy. One of my very favorite things ever. It's the process of turning lead to gold. One video is fine, it's lead. But you can turn it into gold by, it's like data mining. I'm going to mine all of the potential I can from this one piece of content, and I'm going to turn it into gold and kind of put it everywhere. Put it on Reddit. Reddit is really, really important these days. Another thing for us to talk about is your Google Business Profile. This is usually what people start with. So I wanted to start with something a little bit different and then come to Google Business Profile. Y'all, your Google Business Profile is so, so important. So, not just the reviews that you've got on there, you can actually refute reviews. If you've got reviews on there where people are just, I've seen people leave reviews that frankly don't make a lot of sense, where they're like, oh, I encountered one of their trucks on the road and they were driving fast. And then they'll leave like a negative review. So we can actually counter those reviews and say it's not applicable to our business, just like how you can, with one that's entirely irrelevant. But you can always go back to those reviews and counter them and have Google remove them. That's number one. Number two, there is a question and answer section in your Google Business Profile. So actually going in and answering real questions about your business, and you can actually add in the questions you've received. So that's another thing too. What are the questions that people are asking of you in your business? And then answer those on your Google Business Profile. Make sure that you've got the hours there, you've got the description there. Make sure that that's pretty robust. Include the types of information that people typically ask you and are searching about in regards to your service, how long you've been around, those unique differentiators, family owned, really valuing our customers. One of the things that I love most is you can effectively treat your Google Business Profile like a mini social media channel. And the reason why I say this is because Google prefers and gives credence to the profiles that are treating their profile like an active real-time update on a daily, weekly basis, rather than we've done our Google Business Profile, we're done. So what I mean by this, you can have your team go to someone's house, do the job, win the job, fulfill on the job. And while they're there, while they're wrapping up the job, they can take a picture. They can upload a before and after picture taken there on the spot at that address. put it on a post in your Google Business profile, write a little description and say, "Hey, we're at Joe's house. We loved redoing the concrete in his walkway. It was super jaggedy before, it was a tripping hazard, really dangerous for homeowners, especially with young kids or with elderly folks coming to visit. So we completely redid their sidewalk, installed new concrete. We used a polyjacking system, and we are so incredibly proud of the work us at the Miller's Construction family owned business did today. Joe is so happy. In fact, Joe even said he would refer us in a heartbeat to his community here in Sunnybrook, California. So you've added in the address, you've added in personalization on what the customer said, you've added in your service and what you did, you added your company name in there. What you did just by writing that little description is you stuffed a whole bunch of keywords in there, and you talked about the transformation. We went from this jaggedy old concrete sidewalk to a safe, usable pathway through this process of polyjacking, and then we were able to create a place where now family is welcome to come regardless of age. And so that shows Google not just what your services are, not just that you're active, but where you physically are. It matters where you make that post. So if you're in Sunnybrook, California, and you make that post right there at that customer's house, what Google does is that it's kind of like scanning your digital footprint. So it's almost like, imagine a map, like here in the center, and it's crawling out. And everywhere that you physically have posted, we're at Joe's house in Sunnybrook, California, we're at Fred's house over here in Vegas. And then you say on your website, we service all these areas, we service, a 4 to 5 hour radius. And the more you're posting in those individual areas, the more Google is actually going to see, oh, they service those areas. And here's another aspect. If you start adding in the questions, Joe asked us yesterday, what is the best service you should do for your sidewalk in Sunnybrook, California? I told him it was this polyjacking technique that we've been doing for 35 years. So that's really the cool thing. And here's another element. I was just on a call today with a business development manager for a trades business. And I was, I'm coming from the marketing perspective. He's coming from business development. He's effectively doing sales. So how can I make his life better? And so one of the things that we're going to do is we're going to be creating social media for him to post on his content, on his on his social profiles. This is what the marketing team can do. They can say, "Hey, you're going to Joe's house on Tuesday, Sam. Sam, I'm actually going to give you a piece of content for you to pull up the Google Business profile. All you got to do is take a picture, copy and paste. Then it goes live. Better yet, take a picture of you, Sam, in front of the house, maybe even with Joe, if Joe will be in the picture with you. Say, hey, I'm here with Joe. And now that picture is not just used for Google. Now it can go on your Facebook profile, because the more stories, and I'm saying stories, like genuine stories, tell a story with your content, because the more you're looking at it, Facebook is telling the same story that your Google Business profile post is, that's now turning into a blog post. Now there's consistency. Google knows that. ChatGPT knows that. And now you've got all of your social profiles all working in concert together. Y'all, I just saw I'm at 18 minutes. I promised that I wouldn't go over 15 minutes on these shows, so I've got to jump off. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. I go live every single business day, and I would love to hear any questions you've got that you'd like for me to answer. Here at Foundations First, we do offer free marketing consultations because I nerd out over this stuff. So I want to learn more about the market. It really helps me do my job better, and I would love to serve you that way. So let me know if you want a free consultation. Otherwise, I will see you tomorrow. I've been going live every night, 8 p.m. Eastern. So come hang out with me tomorrow night. And in the meantime, I hope you have a wonderful evening, and I will see you tomorrow on the Daily Conversations with the Trade.